Tokyo, a sprawling metropolis, a city that never sleeps, where the lights are always on and the streets are always bustling. A suffocating labyrinth of concrete and steel, where the buildings loom like giants, casting long shadows over the narrow alleyways. Its neon lights, a garish mockery of the sun, cast long, distorted shadows that danced with the city's hidden horrors. The vibrant colours mask the darkness that lies beneath. The air, thick with exhaust fumes and the stench of decay, clung to the skin like a shroud. The smog hung heavy, a constant reminder of the city's relentless pace and the pollution it breeds. This was not a city for the faint of heart. The streets, though bustling by day, turned into eerie, desolate pathways by night, filled with unseen dangers. It was a breeding ground for despair, where dreams came to die and hope was a rare commodity. Denji knew this truth all too well. He had walked these streets, felt the weight of the city's oppressive atmosphere. He was a creature of the shadows, a phantom haunting the city's underbelly. The darkness was his refuge, the only place where he felt he belonged. His life had been a brutal symphony of pain, loss and poverty. Each day was a struggle, each night a battle against the encroaching darkness. Tokyo had chewed him up and spat him out, leaving him broken and alone. The city had taken everything from him, but it had also given him a fierce determination to survive. But Denji was a survivor. He had faced the worst the city had to offer and had come out the other side, scarred but unbroken. He clung to life with a ferocity born of desperation. Every breath was a victory, every step a testament to his will to live. He had to, for himself, for the memory of those he had lost. The past was a heavy burden, but it was also a source of strength. And for Pochita, the one constant in his miserable existence. The small dog was his only companion, a beacon of light in the darkness, a reminder that there was still something worth fighting for. Denji was no ordinary young man. He was a hybrid, a fusion of flesh and infernal power, a being both pitied and feared. His heart belonged to Pochita, the chainsaw devil, a creature of unimaginable might bound to Denji in a pact of blood and sacrifice. Their bond was forged in the crucible of despair. Denji, drowning in debt and facing certain death, had stumbled upon a dying Pochita. A desperate prayer, a shared blood oath, and their fates were intertwined. Pochita became Denji's heart, his saviour, his curse. The power of the chainsaw devil coursed through Denji's veins. It was a raw, primal force, capable of tearing through flesh and bone with terrifying ease. But power, like all things in Denji's life, came at a price. Pochita's power was a double-edged sword. It granted Denji strength beyond measure, but demanded a piece of his humanity in return. Each transformation, each pull of the cord embedded in his chest, chipped away at Denji's soul. The line between man and devil blurred with every roar of the chainsaw. The hunger for blood, the primal rage, it was always there, lurking beneath the surface, threatening to consume him entirely. Denji fought against it, clinging to the last vestiges of his humanity. But the struggle was constant, a gnawing fear that one day he would lose himself completely. He was trapped in a macabre dance with the devil, forever teetering on the precipice of madness. Section 4, Concrete Jungle, a Symphony of Shadows. Tonight, Denji walked the desolate alleys of Tokyo. The city, cloaked in a perpetual twilight, seemed to press in on him, suffocating him with its indifference. The stench of garbage and despair hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of the city's underbelly. Rain drizzled from the overcast sky, slicking the pavement and turning the alleyways into treacherous streams of filth. The neon signs reflected in the puddles created a kaleidoscope of distorted colors, painting the city in hues of madness. Denji trudged onward, his footsteps echoing hollowly in the oppressive silence. His senses, heightened by his demonic heritage, were on high alert. Danger lurked in every shadow, whispered on the wind. Section 5. Discordant Whispers, the Violin's Lament. A sound cut through the rhythmic drone of the city, a city that never slept, its pulse a constant hum of life and machinery. A mournful wail, thin and reedy, echoing off the damp concrete walls, weaving through the narrow alleys like a ghostly whisper. It was a violin, its melody a discordant blend of beauty and despair, each note a cry of sorrow, each pause a breath of longing. It was a sound that spoke of things best left undisturbed, of secrets buried deep within the city's heart, secrets that had long been forgotten by the world above. Denji stopped, his head cocked to the side, listening intently. The melody seemed to call to him, a siren song that he couldn't ignore. The music drew him in, a siren song beckoning him deeper into the labyrinthine alleys, each step taking him further from the safety of the familiar. He couldn't explain it, but the music resonated with something primal within him, stirring a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. It was as if the violin spoke directly to his soul, awakening emotions he had long buried. He moved towards the sound, his footsteps slow and deliberate, drawn by an unseen force. Each step echoed in the silence, a rhythmic counterpoint to the haunting melody. He rounded a corner, his senses on high alert, and there, in a pool of flickering gaslight, he found the source of the haunting melody. A figure shrouded in shadows played the violin with a passion that seemed to transcend the physical world, drawing Denji into a realm of pure emotion and mystery. Section 6. Drawn to the Abyss, an Unholy Serenade. A figure sat hunched over, shrouded in shadow. The room was cloaked in darkness, save for the faintest glimmer of light that barely touched the edges of the figure's form. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards. The flickering gaslight illuminated only the lower half of their body and the glint of the violin as it danced in their hands. The instrument seemed almost alive, its strings vibrating with an eerie resonance that filled the room with a haunting melody. The music flowed from the instrument, a torrent of sorrow and rage that seemed to claw at the edges of Denji's sanity. Each note was a dagger, piercing through the veil of reality and dragging him deeper into a world of shadows and despair. He couldn't tear his gaze away. His eyes were locked onto the figure, drawn by an invisible force that held him captive. The room seemed to shrink around him, the walls closing in as the music grew louder and more intense. The music held him captive, weaving a spell that tightened its grip with every note. It was as if the very essence of the melody was wrapping itself around his soul, binding him to the figure in the shadows. He felt a strange pull towards the figure, a primal urge that transcended fear or logic. His feet moved of their own accord, each step bringing him closer to the source of the haunting melody. It was as if the music was calling to something deep within him, something dark and hungry. A part of him that he had long buried, now awakened by the unholy serenade. Denji took a hesitant step forward, then another. Each movement felt like a struggle against an unseen force. Yet he couldn't stop himself. The music was a siren's call, irresistible and all-consuming. The music swelled, growing louder, more insistent. It filled every corner of the room, reverberating through the walls and into Denji's very bones. The intensity of the melody was almost unbearable, yet he craved more. The shadows around the figure seemed to writhe and twist in time with the melody, as if alive with some unseen energy. They danced and swirled, creating a mesmerizing display that only added to the surreal atmosphere. Denji felt as though he was on the brink of a revelation, teetering on the edge of an abyss that promised both terror and enlightenment. Section 7. Transformation, Chainsaw Man Unleashed. The music reached a crescendo, a cacophony of sound that shattered the oppressive silence of the alleyway. Denji felt a surge of power course through his veins, raw and uncontrollable. His heart pounded against his ribs, a drumbeat of madness echoing the violin's frantic rhythm. He couldn't hold back any longer. The transformation ripped through him, tearing away the last vestiges of his humanity. Chainsaws erupted from his arms, their serrated teeth gleaming under the gaslight. His head split open, revealing a grotesque maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. He was no longer Denji, the lost and lonely boy. He was the Chainsaw Man, a creature of primal fury unleashed. The alleyway echoed with the roar of his chainsaws, a sound that promised violence and despair. But something was wrong. The figure, the source of the haunting melody, was gone.